What's up, fight fans? Very interesting topic for me. Very, very interesting. And to be fair, I've gone back and forth on the subject because I'm still undecided. And what I'm talking about, as you guys can see by the thumbnail, sorry, remember hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. What I'm talking about, if you can see by the thumbnail, is James Degale's comments made in an IFL TV interview 2 days ago, yesterday I think, 2 days ago. Where he said Eubank Snr was a shit fighter. Ooh. So immediately, I don't really watch IFL TV that much anymore because I feel like it's a bit too one-sided. I don't know, it's a bit too... I don't feel like the... This is not having a go, by the way. Wait, I prefer Seconds Out. I prefer Radio Raheem. I think Radio Raheem asks fighters tougher questions. Yeah? Doesn't try to be too friendly with everyone. And I sometimes feel IFL a bit too friendly. That's just my opinion. People might say bullshit, but that's my opinion. I think Radio Raheem is probably the best out there because he's so not fighter friendly. He will ask, I feel I've asked him questions that I think, oh my god, did he really say that? Anyway, back to the point. Coogan was probably stirring up a little bit because, let's be honest, no one really cares about James Degale's opponent, Caleb Truax. No one really cares about him too much. So he's asking the obvious questions about George Groves and about Chris Eubank Jr. And he said that he clearly doesn't know who he hates the most, which means for me we've got two potential good matchups. Whoever wins that semi-final and then probably goes on to win the World Boxing Super Series, James Degale is obviously going to be waiting. It's going to be fantastic. I pray to God it's Chris Eubank. But anyway, he mentioned that Chris Eubank Snr was a shit fighter and immediately looked at the comment section of that video and people were just going crazy at him, right? I've always said that he is a polarizing figure, James Degale. Some people really like him. I'm one of those people. Some people really hate him, and I can clearly understand why, right? There's something about every time he talks, there's something about what he says that just pisses people off and runs them up the wrong way, and I understand that. But what he did say did make me start thinking and looking at the record of Chris Eubank Snr. And to be honest, I have not looked at the record, but I remember, as a fight fan, I can remember who he fought during that time, right? And Frank Warren being Frank Warren, let's be honest, he didn't really put him in there with killers. I think the biggest name on his record was obviously Nigel Benn. I think it's fair to say, in terms of the win, the biggest win on his record was Nigel Benn. But if Nigel Benn beat Chris Eubank, the biggest win on Nigel Benn's record wouldn't be Chris Eubank, right? Because Nigel Benn obviously went on for likes of Iron Barkley, Doug DeWitt, Gerald McClellan, huge fight. So those would have been the biggest ones for Nigel Benn. Chris Eubank does have names on the record. Michael Watson, fantastic fighter, and would have gone on to be a world champion. Michael Watson, trust me, would have gone on. A lot of people say Michael Watson was the best middleweight of all of them. And there was a lot. It wasn't just Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank. There was many other sort of middleweights in and around that time. And Michael Watson was considered the best out of all of them. Was winning that fight against Chris Eubank until he got stopped. So that's a very big one on the record. But then he did fight a lot of cabmen. He did. I think he's one of my best fighters, Chris Eubank Snr. But the fact is, you look on the record and he did fight a lot of cabmen. But that was him, right? We didn't care back then. I don't think people were so social media savvy. I mean, not a lot of people had internet back then. We didn't, did we, in the 90s? So you couldn't look at someone's record on BoxRec and see who they fought and think, this guy's unbeaten, but look, he's fought bums. Whereas we do that now. We do that now. As soon as someone's name's were out, we have a look and we're more critical now than we were back then. I'm a massive Prince Nassim Hamed fan. I look at that record and think, I mean, you fought nobody sometimes, Prince Nassim. Nobody sometimes. So he is right in what he's saying. You look at the record as we do to fighters now, and Chris Eubank Snr would get a lot of eyebrow raises to some of the people who are fighting. Some of the people who fight, he didn't have the big fights, and there were some big names out there. Roy Jones Jr. was out there. James Toney was out there. Bernard Hopkins was out there. Gerald McClellan, who Nigel Benn fought, was out there. Iron Barkley was out. There were loads of possible names that he could have fought that he didn't. Obviously, in his later career, he got beat by Steve Collins, got beat by Joe Calzaghe, and then went up to fight Carl Thompson at a much heavyweight and cruiserweight, which is, he started as a middleweight. And then obviously had those back-to-back losses against, was it 2 losses? I think it was. Tough fights, but he had those losses. So was Eubank Snr a shit fighter? Was he overhyped because of the wins, but then was it a case of what James Degale's doing now? You look at the record and you think, well, it's a bit thin. It's a bit thin. I don't know. I'm still kind of split. I think Eubank was a warrior, but I do think that to. I'd like to know. I'd like to know how the Americans thought of him. Us Brits sometimes we get a bit too carried away, don't we? I'd love to know how the American fight person, i.e., someone like a Doug Fisher or one of those people, Al Bernstein. I'd love to know how they looked at Chris Eubank, because, like I said, they had a lot of very good middleweights and super middleweights in their country that arguably were a lot better than Ben and Eubank. And I just mentioned them: James Toney, Roy Jones, Bernard Hopkins. All those people in and around the same age group were arguably a lot better and arguably willing to fight our Brits, but didn't happen. I don't know. I don't remember that interview with Jonathan Ross. With Jonathan Ross has got James Toney, and who's with James Toney again? What actor's with him? Mickey Rourke, and I think they're at the wild card. Could be wrong. And James Toney basically is calling them both bums, calling them both. And I sometimes feel that that's how the Americans saw those two, and we as Brits saw them as something completely different, because they were knocking out guys that weren't very great, but nonetheless still getting the knockouts. I don't know. But James Degale has brought up a very good subject, a very good talking point, and I really want people to let me know what they think. And even more interesting, who would have won super middleweight, James Degale or Chris Eubank Sr.? Think about this very clearly. Don't just Chris Eubank. Think about it. As I'm doing right now, I'm split. Can't decide. Let me know what you think. Peace.